Alright, so I'm putting together a series of videos on Jacob's twin brother Esau, and I will be using not just scripture but historical facts to prove and show that a lot of the characters which people read about in what we call today the Bible are not only true but they are very much alive and present in the world today. So I'm going to gather as much information as I possibly can on Esau, and I want to gather the information within the canonical scriptures only. I do plan on gathering information from outside sources like other apocryphal, pseudepigraphal works which the patriarchs wrote, but for some reason or another they didn't make the canon. So I'm going to work with what they've given us, their version of the scriptures. So I want to know a few things regarding Esau. I want to know who were his parents. Did he have any siblings? What did he look like? What was his personality like? Where did he live? And last but not least, I want to go over some of the prophetical judgments that would befall the nations of Esau in these latter days. Oh, and one last thing. I also want to go over some of the wives he married. So let's turn our attention to Genesis chapter 25, because this chapter is where Esau is first introduced in the canonical scriptures. And if you scroll down to verse 19, this is where the story of Esau and his brother Jacob begins. So let's read. I'm going to read a few verses. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to try to keep it short. I can't promise anything. So let's just go from here and see where we end up. Okay, the birth of Esau and Jacob. Verse 19 says that this is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. Verse 20. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, from Padan Aram, and the sister of Laban the Aramean. Verse 21. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant. With twins, it says that she was pregnant with twins. Verse 22. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. Why is this happening to me? She asked. So, moving on to verse 23, it says that the Lord told her, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and whoever is the eldest of the two will serve the younger. So here it says that the wife of Isaac, who happens to be the father of Esau and Jacob, prayed so that the Lord could bless Rebekah and she could conceive. So she did, and there were twins in her womb. And there was a great struggle between the two children before they were born, while in their mother's womb, and she was worried. She wanted to know what was going on. So she went and sought the Lord, and the Lord gave her word that there were two sons in her, and from the very beginning, these two sons would become two separate nations, and they would be rivals. It also says that one son would be stronger than the other, and whoever is the eldest of the two would serve the younger. So now the questions we need answered is, who is the stronger of the two brothers and who is the eldest. So also take note, make a mental note of this too. It says that from the very beginning, each son would become a separate nation. So that it's letting you know that whoever these individuals are very much distinguishable. It says they will be rivals, two nations, and obviously they're distinguishable because one would be stronger than the other. So let's keep reading. Verse 24 says, "And when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered that she did indeed have twins." Verse 25, "The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur of coat. So they named him Esau." Verse 26 says that then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. So we come to find out that Esau's parents are Isaac and Rebekah. And it says here that he was the first one to be born. So that means that he would serve his younger brother Jacob. What we don't know is which one of the two is considered the stronger one. Also, very important, very important that you make a mental note of this. I want you to take notice that they're only describing what Esau looked like, but not Jacob. Now ask yourself, why is that? Could it be that Esau looked a little different than the rest of his family? You get the impression that that is the case because they're not describing what Jacob looked like. They're only singling out Esau. It says that he was born red and covered with hair. What kind of description is this, you have to ask yourself. So obviously, if they're only describing Esau, that means he was different. So again, the two sons are very much distinguishable as far as visual physical appearance. Moving on, we're going to read about how Esau sold his birthright to his younger brother. Verse 27 says, "As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home." So it says that Esau was an outdoorsman, spent a lot of time in the wilderness, and he was a skillful hunter. He was a hunter. And it says that Jacob just liked to chill at home. He was more of a quiet temperament. Verse 28, "Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebekah loved Jacob." So it says that each parent had their favorites. Like in some families, Isaac had a special affection for Esau since he was the one that brought the food home. And Rebekah had special affection for her youngest son Jacob. I guess some would say that Jacob is the mama's boy. And Isaac was probably closer to Esau because he was the eldest, and they probably spent a lot of time together doing father-son activities. So again, verse 27 lets us know that there are two different personalities. Esau is an outdoorsman, so he's a hunter. He's got skill in hunting. And Jacob was, I guess, just a plain man, or very quiet, of a calm spirit. Moving on to verse 29, it says that one day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness exhausted and hungry. So Jacob was throwing down in the kitchen, and here comes Esau from the wilderness, tired it seems, and hungry. So it doesn't say where he's coming from, it just says that he was exhausted and hungry. One would assume that he's coming from hunting. Well, let's find out. Verse 30 says that Esau said to Jacob, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. So this is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. So it's obvious that Esau wasn't coming home with some food. Otherwise, he wouldn't be asking Jacob to give him something to eat. And what's more is that it's kind of odd for him to arrive from the wilderness without catching anything, without bringing anything home, since he was a skillful hunter after all. So it's kind of odd to assume that he was coming home from the wilderness, probably from hunting, and he had no luck, so he came home empty-handed. I wouldn't jump to that conclusion or assumption that quick, because think about it, Esau was a skillful hunter. So it's kind of odd for him to come home empty-handed. Doesn't make sense. So where's he coming from? We don't know. It doesn't say. Not enough detail. So he was coming home from somewhere, exhausted and hungry. So that's odd. He's a skillful hunter, yet he couldn't get anything to eat. So where's he coming from? Obviously he didn't brought nothing home, otherwise he wouldn't ask his younger brother to give him some red stew. Now, another thing, what is this red stew? Notice that everything red is being associated with Esau. Esau came out red. He has a thing for red stew, apparently, and they called him Red, or Edom. Why? I guess because he seems to be drawn to just anything associated with red for some reason or another. So he gathered another name, or nickname, Edom, which means red. So we need to know these things. Where is he coming from? Why does he have a thing for this red stew? Why does he want it so bad? Verse 31 says, All right, Jacob replied, but first trade me your rights as a firstborn son. Verse 32, Look, I am dying of starvation, said Esau. What good is my birthright to me now? So Esau's not even thinking twice about keeping his blessings as a firstborn. So he's telling Jacob right off the bat, Look, I'm starving here. What good is this birthright to me? So he's acting very carnally minded in this situation. Verse 33, But Jacob said, First you must swear that your birthright is mine. So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling his birthright as the firstborn, selling all his rights. He sold, well, in this case, it's more like a trade. So the proper word would be, thereby he traded all his rights as the firstborn to his younger brother Jacob. So Jacob wanted to make sure that Esau would come through with his promise. And he told him, he's like, okay, I'll give you this red stew that you want so bad. Just make a promise to me that you're going to hand over all your rights as the firstborn, your blessings. So Esau swore an oath to him and agreed. Verse 34 says that then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew, Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. So this act by Esau, by selling his blessings as the firstborn, showed that he didn't care about those spiritual blessings that he inherited just by being the firstborn. So he, in order just so he could please his stomach, just to appease his stomach, he traded over all his blessings for what it says here, bread and lentil stew. Well, it says here bread and lentil stew, but if you go back up to verse 30, it says that it was red stew. It doesn't say what was this red stew. Red bread and red lentil stew. Just something to consider, because we're going to be revisiting some of these verses, because some of these are going to be our clues as to what's up with all this red associated with him. So in this instance, in this situation, Esau was being very carnally minded, just to please his stomach, his flesh. He just didn't think twice about keeping his inheritance and traded it off to Jacob for a bowl of stew, red stew with bread and lentils. So it lets you know that he wasn't very spiritually minded individual. Otherwise, he would have thought twice about what he was doing. But since, remember, I said he was an outdoors man, he spent a lot of time in the wilderness, he loved to hunt, and here is showing that he was very fleshly minded, carnally minded, and just to appease his flesh, his stomach, he made the trade with Jacob. So another thing that's very interesting, in verse 32, why is he saying that he's dying of starvation? It doesn't make no sense if he's a skillful hunter. He said, "What good is my birthright to me now?" So it's just things to consider. Why would he say that? I don't want my birthright because I'm starving. Just because he's having a bad day. Even if he was coming home from trying to get something to eat. I mean, he was a skillful hunter. Was it that bad that he had to trade all his blessings? I mean, Esau's not stupid. He was a skillful hunter, remember? So he's not stupid. Though he may be showing weakness, spiritually speaking, by giving in to his flesh, it doesn't indicate that he was stupid. Matter of fact, it said that he was a skillful hunter. So you have to ask yourself, why is he saying this? Oh, I am dying. It says I am dying of starvation. So he was hungry, as it shows here. But again, kind of odd, him being a skillful hunter, that he would just give in to the proposal that Jacob made him. Alright, nonetheless, we're going to keep it moving. And we're going to go to chapter 26 now. For those of you wondering where am I reading from, it's from BibleGateway.com. So I'm just going to skip all this. Remember, I'm only reading the parts where it's in regards to Esau. I'm only focusing on Esau. Okay, so I'm going to change versions. I don't like this one because it's not narrating. It's not labeling the sections where it's only going to be talking about Esau. And I don't want to confuse anybody that's watching this. So let's go with this translation, God's Word's translation. Although it's not the best one, I would not recommend it to anybody. A lot of the verses are eroded, like really, really bad. But, okay, I just wanted to read this part. Regarding Esau's marriages, this is Genesis chapter 26. It says, verse 34 says that when Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite. And it also says that he married Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. Verse 35 says that these women brought Isaac and Rebekah a lot of grief. So for those of you that don't know who these women are, well, these women that he married are descendants from the Canaanite tribe of the Hittites. Het, I believe, being one of the offshoots of Canaan, and Canaan was the fourth son of Ham. So Esau took to wife two Canaanite women when he was 40 years old. Judith, and she was the daughter of this man, Beri, who was a Hittite / Canaanite. And he also married Basemath, daughter of Elon. This man, Elon, who was a Canaanite from the clan of the Hittites. And it says here again in verse 35 that these women brought Isaac and Rebekah a lot of grief because they were Gentile nations, heathens. You know, anything you see with an "ite" at the end, they have that Nephilim gene running through them. So they were very immoral and certainly not the best mates, suitable women to make marriages with for obvious reasons. They didn't have the most desirable personality and certainly not the morals to go with it. So plus they were, like I said, they had that Nephilim gene running in them. So he married two Canaanite women. And now, those are just two of his wives. So I'm gonna and we're not done with his wives, so I'm gonna show you. Okay, so let's go to Genesis chapter 36. We already gathered two of his wives. Okay, so here's gonna give us a list of all his wives. So Esau got around. That's why I want to show you guys. Esau got around. He had a few wives. So this is the account of Esau. That is Edom and his descendants. I'm not gonna go through the whole list. I just want to get you familiar with his spouses. So Esau chose his wives from the women of Canaan. We just read. Took two Canaanite women from Heth, the descendants of Heth, and Heth being, I believe, a son of Canaan. Ada. It says here that Ada, daughter of Elon the Hittite. Alright, so let me go back. I want to show you guys something so you don't get confused because there's one of his wives that goes by two different names. Okay, so we seen here, right? It says that Judith, Esau was 40 years old and he married Judith. And also Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. Now, okay, keep in mind, okay, you got Judith and Basemath. Okay, I'm sorry, hold on. I'm trying to fix this up for you guys. Okay, so he married Judith and Basemath. They're both Hittites. Alright, so here we go. Alright. Okay, so it said Esau chose wives from the women of Canaan. Also notice it's only naming Ada here. And over there it said that it was Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. Now here she goes by another name, Ada. So don't get confused. Or it could be too that some say that she goes by two different names. You could, it's alright. I could understand why they would think that. Or what I was thinking too is maybe this woman Ada is another daughter of that same Hittite, meaning Esau might have married not one but two daughters from this Hittite, Ellen. And remember, it's not mentioning Judith here. Why? Because this chapter only deals with Esau's wives, whom he had offspring, descendants. He didn't have any offsprings with Judith. That's why she's not in the genealogy of Esau. So he just married his first wife at 40 years old, which was Judith from a Hittite, but he didn't leave any kids with her. Only with, actually, if these are two separate individuals, Ada, it's not the same as Basemath, then that means he married two Canaanite women but didn't leave children with any of those first two. But these other two he did. Ada, daughter of that same Hittite, might be the same person, might be another daughter of his. It says Aholibama. That was his third or fourth wife. And also it says that Basemath. So don't get thrown off. Remember, the other Hittite was called Basemath too. But there was another woman that went by this name, but she was of the daughters of Ishmael. She was an Ishmaelite. So a lot of similar names. Don't get confused. So he had 1, 2, 3, probably 4 or 5 different women. But Esau only had descendants with three of his spouses. That would be the 2 Canaanite women and the Ishmaelite. So he got around. Now let's go back to Genesis chapter 27. Alright, so now we're going to read regarding the blessings which Isaac blessed his 2 sons, Esau and Jacob. But only one of them would get the blessing, not just any blessing, but this blessing would include a whole lot of privileges. So I'm going to read beginning with verse 1, chapter 27 of the book of Genesis. It says that when Isaac was old and going blind, he called his son Esau and said to him, Son. Esau answered, saying, Here I am. Verse 2, Isaac said, I am old. I don't know when I'm going to die. Now take your hunting equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out into the open country and hunt some wild game for me. Verse 4, Prepare a good tasty meal for me just the way I like it. Bring it to me to eat, so that I will bless you before I die. So here's Isaac sending his eldest son Esau to go hunt for some food. And he's making him, he's telling him, go prepare something to eat so that I could bless you before I die, because Isaac was getting up there in age. Verse 5 says that Rebekah was listening while Isaac was speaking to his son Esau. When Esau went into the open country to hunt for some wild game to bring back, verse 6 says that Rebekah said to her son Jacob, I've just heard your father speaking to your brother Esau. Verse 7 says, this is Rebekah speaking. Isaac said, Bring me some wild game and prepare a good tasting meal for me to eat, so that I will bless you in the presence of the Lord before I die. So this is Rebekah overhearing the conversation um, Esau had with his father Isaac. And Rebecca is repeating those same words to little Jacob. In verse 8, it says, "Now listen to me, son, and do what I tell you." Verse 9, "Go to the flock and get me 2 good young goats. I'll prepare them as a good tasting meal for your father, just the way he likes it." Verse 10, "Then take it to your father to eat so that he will bless you before he dies." So here's Rebecca instructing little Jacob to go fetch for 2 good young goats so that she could prepare them as a good tasting meal for Isaac, the way he likes it. And he's also instructing him that he is to take this meal that she prepared to Isaac. So obviously they plan on usurping the blessing from Esau. That's why it says that take this meal. So they're trying to beat Esau to the punch. So they're gonna try to pull a fast one on Isaac. And that's why it says so that he will bless you. She's talking to Jacob before he dies. So she heard the conversation. Obviously, you get the impression that she wasn't too pleased with the blessing that Esau was about to inherit. So she didn't want the blessing to go to Esau. So she was cooking up her own plans. And it involved Jacob, as you just read. Now, verse 11. Jacob said to his mother Rebekah, "My brother Esau is a hairy man, and my skin is smooth." Another important verse. It's distinguishing the two brothers. Their physical appearance, visually, they are distinguishable. Jacob's telling Rebekah that his older brother is hairy and that his skin is smooth. Verse 12. My mother, I'm sorry, verse 12. My father will feel my skin and think I am mocking him. Then I'll bring a curse on myself instead of a blessing. So Jacob is telling his mom, look, mom, dad may be probably going blind in his age, but he's not stupid. He could tell us apart because my skin is smooth and my brother's is hairy. He could feel, he's going to feel our skin and tell the difference. And he's going to find out thinking that, they're up to no good. And then rather than inherit a blessing, Jacob will end up getting a curse. So Jacob's concerned. So he's very mindful of any misdeeds. So he's very considerate of what little he has, and he wants to make sure that he doesn't lose what little he has, trying to gain more. So he seems very appreciative of the position he's in. But Rebecca, for obvious reasons to her, does not want Esau to inherit this blessing. Despite Isaac's favoritism toward Esau. Verse 13 says, this is Rebecca speaking. She said, "Let any curse on you fall on me, son. Just obey me and go. Get me the young goats." So here's Rebecca taking full responsibility for any curses or any mishappenings that may befall Jacob. So she's taking full responsibility for any curses that might come Jacob's way. So she's like, okay, don't worry about it. I'll take the hit if anything goes wrong. So she's determined to make sure that Jacob gets this blessing. Verse 14, it says, "So Jacob went and got them the 2 goats and brought them to his mother. She prepared a good tasting meal just the way his father liked it, meaning the father of Jacob, meaning her husband. Verse 15. Then Rebekah took her older son Esau's good clothes, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. So she went into Jacob's belongings. Rebekah went into Esau's, not Jacob's. She went to Esau's belongings and got some clothes off of him, which were in the house. And what did she do? She put them on Jacob, the youngest son. So they're planning to dress Jacob as Esau. Verse 16. She put the skins from the young goats on his hands and on the back of his neck. Why? Remember, Esau was described as being hairy. So they're going to use this hairy skin of these goats to put it on Jacob's hands, back, and neck. So they want to make sure if she's going to dress up little Jacob as Esau, they want to make sure they don't go, I'm not going to say that word. I was going to say half, what. They're going to go all the way. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it right as best as they can. So they want to make sure that Isaac's not able to tell the difference. So she put these hairy goat skins on all over little Jacob. Verse 17. Then she gave her son Jacob the good tasting meal she had prepared and the bread, and sent them off. It says that she gave her son Jacob the good tasting meal and the bread she had prepared. Verse 18. He went to his father and said, Father, this is Jacob speaking. And this is Isaac answering, Yes. He also said, Who are you, son? Verse 19. Jacob answered his father, I'm Esau, your firstborn. I've done what you told me. Sit up and eat this meat I've hunted for you, so that you will bless me. Verse 20 says that Isaac asked his son, How did you find it so quickly, son? The Lord your God brought it to me, Jacob answered. Remember, it's Jacob, but Isaac doesn't know. It's Jacob. He's hearing his voice, but Jacob's passing up as Esau. So he's going to check him out, make sure it's Esau. Well, let's see what happens next. Verse 21, Then Isaac said to Jacob, Come over here so that I can feel your skin. So he wants to make sure that this is truly Esau. So he told him, Come over here, son, to find out whether or not you really are my son Esau. Verse 22 says, So Jacob went over to his father. Isaac felt his skin and said, The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's. So he's kind of bewildered. He's a little confused. Obviously he's not dumb, so he could hear his voice. And this is my youngest son Jacob, but he feels like Esau. That's what the goat skins were for. Verse 23, he didn't recognize Jacob because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. Oh, that's how Jacob got the blessing. Passing up as Esau. Verse 24, Are you really my son Esau? Isaac asked. I am, Jacob answered. Verse 25, Isaac said, Bring me some of the game, and I will eat it, son, so that I will bless you. So he's still checking him out. Make sure he's got the stuff and everything. Jacob brought it to Isaac, and he ate it. Jacob also brought him wine, and he drank it. So he came through. Verse 26, Then his father Isaac said to him, Come here and give me a kiss, son. Now, why is he calling him near? Is he being genuine, or does he still want to check him out? You get the impression that Isaac's still skeptical that this is Esau. Verse 27 says, Then Isaac went over and gave him a kiss. When Isaac smelled his clothes, he blessed him and said, "The smell of my son is like the smell of open country that the Lord has blessed." So perhaps he also wanted to get a scent of him, make sure this is Esau. And since he was wearing his clothes too, that Rebekah made Jacob wear, uh, Isaac picked up the scent. Because remember, Esau was an outdoors man. He spent a lot of time in the wilderness hunting. So he had a strong scent. That's why Isaac said, "The smell of my son is like the smell of open country." So he's like, okay, it's gotta be Esau. Although he's sounding a bit strange, he's probably asking himself. Verse 28. Verse 28 says, "May God give you dew from the sky, fertile fields on the earth, and plenty of fresh grain and new wine." Verse 29, "May nations serve you, may people bow down to you. Be the master of your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, may those who bless you be blessed." So he got a pretty heavy blessing here, Jacob, which was intended to go for Esau, but you get the impression that Rebekah didn't think Esau was the suitable one to inherit that blessing. Verse 30 says, "Isaac finished blessing Jacob. Jacob had barely left when his brother Esau came in from hunting." Verse 31, it says, "He too prepared a good tasting meal and brought it to his father. Then he said to his father," this is Esau speaking, "Please, father, eat some of the meat I've hunted for you, so that you will bless me." Verse 32, "Who are you?" his father Isaac asked him. Esau said, "I'm your firstborn, Esau." So just as Esau was coming in, Jacob had just left. Verse 33, trembling violently all over, Isaac asked, "Who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it before you came in. I blessed him, and he will stay blessed." So Isaac's like, then who the heck just came in? Just before you did. He gave me something to eat. That's what Isaac's saying. And whoever that was, I blessed him, he said, and that he's going to remain blessed. Verse 34 says, when Esau heard these words from his father, he shouted out a very loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me too, father." So Esau's upset. If you're following along, if you just read, it's very clear that Esau's upset. Verse 35, Isaac said, "Your brother came and deceived me and has taken away your blessing." So Isaac finally caught on. He's like, okay, so that was Jacob. Verse 36, Esau said, "Isn't that why he's named Jacob? He's cheated me twice already. He took my rights as firstborn, and now he's taken my blessing." So, Esau asked, "Haven't you saved a blessing for me?" So Esau wants to know if there are any more blessings left. Verse 37 says, Isaac answered Esau, "I made him your master, and I made all his brothers serve him. I provided fresh grain and new wine for him. What is left for me to do for you, son?" Verse 38, Esau asked, "Do you have only one blessing, father? Bless me too." And Esau sobbed loudly, so he's upset. So here, crying it seems. And he's telling his dad, "Can you only bless once?" Saying, "Bless me too, throw me a bone or something." Verse 39, it says that here comes a blessing for Esau. His father Isaac answered him and said, "The place where you live will lack the fertile fields of the earth and the dew from the sky above." It says that what? The place where Esau will live will lack the fertile fields of the earth and the dew from the sky above? Well, that's funny. That's not what the King James Version says. Or the Amplified Version for that matter. Look, let's take a look at this version. The Amplified Version, the one I read. I'm going to show you guys how the scribes and Pharisees have been messing with some of these new modern day Bible versions. So, they've been messing with these scriptures a lot. Okay, so remember that we just read that according to that Bible version we were reading from, it said that Esau wouldn't inherit fertile lands, making it seem like he would live in some kind of rundown land with no fertility. In other words, that he wouldn't be prosperous wherever he would live. Well, according to the Amplified Version, verse 39 says that Isaac, his father, answered Esau and said, "Your blessing and dwelling shall," what is another word for shall? Will, right? "Shall all come from the fruitfulness of the earth and from the dew of the heavens above." So shall means will, another word for shall. Your blessing and dwelling shall all come. It will all come. So if it's a blessing, if this is prophetic, it means it will come to pass. So it means that he blessed them and said that your dwelling will all come from the fruitfulness of the earth and from the dew of the heavens above. Isn't that totally different than what we just read? Don't let it throw you off, because that's a very important verse. They want to make it seem like he wasn't prosperous, and he was. His blessing was very similar to Jacob's, but not quite to that extreme. Jacob inherited a lot of stuff. Authorized King James Version. Let's go to the most, by far the best version and most accurate one to date, despite how ever hard it is to read. Look, it says the same thing. Verse 39, Isaac told Esau and said to him, "Behold." Okay, alright, so it says, Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, "Behold, thy dwelling shall, not, or lack. It shall be the fatness of the earth, the good parts, and of the dew of the heaven from above." So he means he would be prosperous. The first verse we just read from the first version was saying that it will lack the fertile fields. And that's not true. That's nothing more than your scribes and Pharisees messing with the scriptures. They don't want you to know and identify who Esau is in the world today. It's probably the same Edomite powers behind this. Who knows? Remember, forgot what verse it was, what chapter it said that the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. What does that mean? It means that they have rulership over the priesthood. That's why they're in charge of all these books. They've been taken away from the canon, messing with the scriptures. So it's obvious that they don't want whatever verses they feel are kind of would expose them. They switch them up a little, but don't let it throw you off. It's not going to stop the truth from getting out. It says that his dwelling will come from the good parts of the earth, and he would receive blessings and prosperity. And verse 40 says that by his sword, Esau will live by his sword and serve his brother. So he was blessed with armory, fighting equipment, artillery, etc. Weaponry, right? And he would serve his brother. Well, that lets you know who's the stronger of the two physically. Esau. I mean, he was an outdoorsman, and now this comes to full circle. He was the one blessed with the weaponry. So that means he's the stronger physically, not spiritually. It's obvious that spiritually Jacob's the stronger one, and Esau physically is the stronger one of the two brothers. And you get the impression that that's how he would serve his brother, with his strength and with the arts of war he was blessed with. But, as we come to find out, Esau had other plans, unfortunately. Let's continue reading. So it says that by your sword you shall live and serve your brother. But the time shall come. You know what? Let's go. Alright, well, let's finish reading this. But the time shall come when you will grow restive and break loose, and shall tear his yoke from off your neck. So it says that he will live by the sword, and with this serve his brother, and the time would come when he will grow a bit uneasy and break loose, and he will tear a yoke. What is this yoke? From off his neck, from off Esau. Esau will tear this yoke from Jacob, from off his neck. And this yoke is talking about the spiritual yoke that kept Esau grounded, that kept him, spiritually grounded. Whatever this yoke was. Okay, no, this yoke was to keep him spiritually grounded. But what I'm trying to say is that there will come a time when Esau wouldn't want that. So he would grow, restive and just impatient and just tear this spiritual yoke. And once he would do that, he would just run wild. He would flip out. So this is what kept him kind of inside the household of God, It was Jacob that kept Esau grounded, because Jacob was the spiritual one. That's how Esau was getting fed spiritually. That's what this yoke was. Because remember, Esau was a very worldly minded individual. So there will come a time where he would just grow impatient, frustrated, and tear this yoke. It was like he basically, it's like, you heard the saying, keep him on a close leash. That's what this yoke was. That the spiritual yoke of Jacob on Esau, it was like a leash, and he will break loose from it and just run wild. But I also noticed something in this version that I read from. It says that he will grow restive, but I noticed it didn't say what the King James Version says. So, I admit it, the King James Version may be hard to read, but it's by far the best version out there, hands down. I have my complaints about it, but it's still the best one out there, because look, we're going to read that verse 40 again and see what it says. It left out a very important key word. Okay, verse 40, here we go. Rereading verse 40. Chapter 27, book of Genesis says, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. Alright, we got that part down. And it shall come to pass, there will come a point in time in history when Esau will have the dominion. When thou shalt have dominion. The other one said he will grow restive. But this is very important. They shouldn't have left this key word out. That it will come to pass when Esau would have dominion, meaning he would rule, right? And during those times when he would be ruling, obviously it's easy to go astray. So he would go astray. He would break Jacob's yoke, spiritual leash from off his neck, and just run wild. So there you have it. And actually, I'm going to keep reading from this version because I'm getting upset at all these other versions leaving key words and messing with these verses. So I'm just going to stick with the King James from here on out. And let's read verse 41. Verse 41 says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So Esau grew a bitter hatred towards Jacob in his heart because of the blessing that Jacob received. And Esau was saying in his heart that, the days of my father's death are at hand. Then, once he's gone, he plans to kill his brother Jacob. So, here the spiritual problems with Esau begin to unfold. Now, keep in mind, he was a descendant of Isaac, but you couldn't tell by how bitter his heart became. So, it's kind of ironic, right? It always seems to happen with the oldest sons. The same problem happened with Lucifer, right? He was created first, then Michael. And when Lucifer went crazy, what happened? Michael took his place. He got bumped up in the ladder, got bumped up, promoted. So when he went astray, Michael had to take that role. Same with Cain and Abel, right? Cain went crazy, killed Abel, and Seth took Abel's place. Always the oldest, and same thing here. The elder brother is going crazy, and Jacob, you can see why Jacob took the blessing, not just any blessing, but this is the blessing. So I always found that very strange. What's this problem with it's always the eldest that has spiritual issues. It doesn't seem stable. Like, it's not, like, wow, if this is the older brother you have, in that case, you're better off with no older brother. Having no brother at all. If he's going to be causing more problems, then he's causing more problems to his family than he is helping them. So, obviously, somewhere in Esau's heart, something went wrong, and he went astray. Same problem throughout history. It happened with the angels, as I just mentioned, with Lucifer and Michael. One went bad or crazy. Michael had to take his place. Same with Cain and Abel. Here, the humans. And same with Esau and Jacob. You can never seem to have a decent older brother. Maybe we should boycott them. Nah, I'm joking. Verse 42. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. So word got around to Rebekah what Esau was planning to do, and she sent and called Jacob, her youngest son. And this is what she told Jacob. Look, your older brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Okay, so what is all this fancy English? Basically, she's saying, look, your brother Esau comforts himself by planning to kill you. So in order to make himself feel better in regards to what happened with the blessing, he makes himself comfortable by planning to kill you. So you can see Esau just went complete bonkers. Like the rest of the older brothers that you read about in Scripture. It's a long list of them. Verse 43, now therefore, my son, obey my voice, and arise, flee unto this place called Lavan, to where Rebekah's brother is at, in Haran. It says, flee to Laban. That's the name of Rebekah's brother. Flee thou to Laban, my brother, in this place called Haran. Verse 44, and tarry with him a few days until thy brother's fury turn away. So it's Rebekah saying to Jacob, just chill with him a few days until your brother cools off. Verse 45, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you've done to him. Then I will send and fetch you from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? So again, she's saying, just stay there with my brother until Esau cools off. Then I will come get you from there. She's saying, why should I lose both of you? Why should both of you end up killing each other over this issue? Yeah, try telling that to Esau. Verse 46. And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. Oh, so here we go with the daughters of the Canaanite Heth, the Hittites. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Hittites. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these, which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? So Rebekah is telling Isaac that she is concerned for her life because of the women of this son of Canaan, Heth, these Canaanite daughters of Heth. She's saying that if Jacob takes a wife of these daughters of Heth, such as the ones that are living in the land of Israel, at the time it was the land of Canaan, should have been the land of Shem, but Canaan, you know, strong-armed that land from Shem, and that's how they got there in the first place. But that's why she's saying the land wasn't named Israel yet. That's what she's saying. Such as the women that are these of the land of Canaan. She's saying, what good shall my life do me? Remember that Abraham's people were very known to like to intermarry with the Canaanites. Why? I don't know. I don't know what attracted them about them, but they like to intermarry, and she was concerned that the same thing might happen with Jacob. Now remember, in order for the promise to stand, Jacob must steer clear of all these heathen nations with Nephilim gene in them. So that was part of the that's part of the contract. Otherwise, that wouldn't have happened. So, and Jacob stood faithful to it. He saw it through. But nonetheless, Rebecca was concerned, and for good reason. Maybe you get the impression that she's probably thinking, otherwise I went to great lengths to get that blessing to Jacob. I went through all that trouble we went through just so Jacob could blow it. So I'm just going to read a couple more verses. And this is regarding Esau's third wife. So I'm going to read just up until verse 9. So Genesis chapter 28. I'm just gathering as much information as I can on the whole background story on Esau. We found out who his parents were, what he looked like, who was his brother, what was his personality like, and who were some of his wives. And now we're going to close it with Genesis chapter 28. So just a couple more verses. Verse 1, chapter 28, book of Genesis says, Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Verse 2, Arise, go to this area called Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take yourself a wife from there, of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. So Isaac gave Jacob strict charge. Don't take any Canaanite, any of the descendants of Canaan for a wife. No Canaanite women. Verse 3, And God Almighty bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people. Verse 4, And give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee. And that's, she's saying, basically, so God could give you the same blessing he gave to Abraham, and that your seed with you, that you may inherit the land wherein you are a stranger. Because they were in the land of Canaan, should have been their land in the first place, but nonetheless, Canaan was already inhabiting the area. They already set up shop. So they were strangers in the land. So it says that they may inherit the land wherewith thou art a stranger, which God gave unto Abraham. Verse 5. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padan Aram unto Laban, son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob, and Esau's mother. Alrighty, let's just wrap up here with a couple more verses. When Esau, verse 6, when Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to this place called Padan Aram to take himself a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he gave him charge. He gave him a charge saying, you are not to take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. So Esau is starting to notice that when Isaac blessed Jacob, he sent him away. And not only did he bless him, but he gave him a strict command saying not to take women from these inhabitants of the land of Canaan, especially those that are descended from Canaan. Verse 7, and that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother and was gone to Padan Aram. Verse 7 says that Esau is now starting to open his mind, spiritually speaking, to some of the priorities of the family. He's picking up that Jacob was being very obedient to Isaac, and he was doing what he was told. Verse 8 says that, and Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father. Verse 9, then went Esau unto Ishmael and took unto the wives which he already had. He took this woman named Mahalat, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's other son. She was the sister of Nebajoth, I'm not sure who that is, to be his wife. So he took another wife, an Ishmaelite, because Esau picked up and noticed that these Canaanite women were not pleasing to Isaac his father, and Jacob obeyed. So he's watching Jacob follow on the instructions of Isaac. So he's trying to do the same. And he messed up a few times. He's trying to get it right. So I'm going to end the video here. And so far we found out, again, who was Esau's parents, who was his brother, what did Esau look like, what was his personality like, what blessing did he inherit, even though he got the original blessing switched over to Jacob. He still got a blessing. We found out what that was. We found out who his wives were. And now in my next video, I'm going to go over some of the prophecies concerning Edom and the judgments that are to befall them in these latter days. So, see you guys in my next video.